The possibility of oil prices reaching new record highs is on everyone's mind. Let's try to get the Department of Energy's take on this. And joining us tonight is Director Rino Abad of the Oil Industry Management Bureau. Good evening, Director. Welcome to The Big Story.
Good evening, Ma'am Tess and Ma'am Sean, and of course to your televiewers po.
Now, we are all bracing ourselves for the next round of price increases. Will there be one next week, and will it be staggered?
Of course, we have an expected increase next week. But as you mentioned, the implementation of the exact amount will still be under review of the oil companies, individual oil companies, and we'll get to have that data of the decision on the staggered price increase by Saturday. So after the 5-day trading price, the oil companies will be able to compute the entire amount of possible increase, and then from that amount, they will be able to decide what will be the staggered price increase scheme. So that will be announced by Saturday.
And the oil companies have already agreed to this staggered basis of increasing prices.
Well, we've done it already before. So our hope really is to do it again this time, and this is even much worse than before. So I think we really have to work closely with the oil companies in making sure that we will be able to mitigate the price increase by next week.
Can we understand, Director Abad, that nadadaan lang ito sa magandang pakiusap and they are not mandated to actually do this, but have you secured their approval? And also, paano po yung staggering? Like, is there a computation on how they will do that? Or may ganun po bang guidelines?
Mabilis po yan, ano? It's just a pronouncement, and of course the downline retail outlets will just have to follow the amount pronounced by the mother oil company. So there's no complication in that. You can immediately change the price display board and adjust the price component in the dispensing pump. So immediately that can be implemented as soon as possible.
We touched a high of about 90 pesos per liter of diesel and gasoline. So is that something that may happen again?
We've had that, as I mentioned before. Even I've seen a price as high as 100 pesos in Boracay at that time. So this is even worse than before. So I think that is no longer a question. It's just a matter of time that we'll see. We'll see in the next week's computation.
Now, Director, of course, we're talking about price, but there's also the matter of supply. Are we?
Yes.
Do we have a comfortable buffer?
Well, as of last week, March 1, confirmed buffer stock of the oil industry points to around 50 days supply for liquid fuel, meaning gasoline, diesel, and kerosene. But LPG, that will be around 28 days. But please note that the regulation requires the oil companies to maintain 15 days supply for gasoline, diesel, and kerosene, and only 7 days for LPG. So if you look at the requirement versus the actual inventory as of March 1, they have triple to 4 times that requirement. So we have that lead time for us to get alternative suppliers outside of Middle East. And that's the good thing with that buffer reserve.
Now, I understand that 85% or even more of our oil is really from the Middle East. And now that that is under question, especially with the Strait of Hormuz being impassable. What other alternatives are we looking at?
Well, it's correct, right? The Petron refinery is getting not 80, but it's around 98% now from the Middle East. Not from Iran exactly, but with the other Middle East countries. But that is only Petron is supplying around 26 to 28% of the entire demand of the country, and the rest are imported directly from Asia, Pacific region. So that's China, Japan, South Korea, Singapore. But we know for a fact that around 88% of the Middle East crude oil goes to Asia Pacific region. So indirectly, we will also be affected if these refining countries will be affected by Middle East crude oil disruption. So the alternative really is to go outside of Middle East, and we have like U.S., Canada, Australia, Latin America, basically Brazil and Venezuela, and of course Africa. So that's the option now for not only for the Philippines but for the rest of other countries in the ASEAN region.
Right. Will this be done via the Energy Department, or are we leaving it to the oil companies to make these arrangements?
Well, it's a combination of the private sector. Of course, the primary supplier of, with the deregulated regime that we have now, the primary supplier of fuel in our country is the private sector. So we've been discussing that for the entire week with the oil companies, and they're very much aware that they have to source from outside of the Middle East. But at the same time, our secretary has already directed PNOC to explore, and in so short a time, they have to act on not only exploring but an actual procurement of what we call the standby diesel inventory for reserve. Now this adds up. This will add up to the reserve of the entire country. Private sector will do its alternative sourcing, including now the Philippine National Oil Company.
Okay. Director, a lot of consumers always wonder if we do keep on a supply of around 2 months, bakit next week agad na daw mararamdaman yung pag-akyat sa pump prices of the Iran and the US-Israel tensions. Maybe you can explain again kung paano po ba nila sinastagger yon? Because that's also kind of already hedging their costs, right?
Because the usual practice of the supplier abroad is that even if you lock in the supply, they don't lock in the price because of the highly commoditized form of trade in oil. So your price is always upon delivery. So you get the supply quantity early on, but you have to pay on the day that you get it, because that exposes also the trader. So, for example, if we lock in the price 1 year ago, that will be very risky for the trader, for the supplier. And this both parties, traders and buyers, knows that. So what the usual practice is, lock in the quantity, but you have to pay me on the day that I will deliver it to you. So if the deliveries will come next week, then it will already be priced at the price in the minimum plus Singapore by next week. So they have to recover that. Otherwise, the working capital that they'll get from a much lower price will not be able to, again, to be used in the next shipment, because they will be getting less for the fund that they need to buy the necessary volume in the next shipment.
So, Director, the price increase, we will know the price increase by Saturday, but when will it take effect? Will it be on Tuesday?
The part probably the staggered price increase will stay Tuesday. But if that will be implemented, it might be in a series of imposition, like in a 3-week period, 2-week period, or even a separate date. So I would presume that they will implement part in Tuesday next week, but on the other parts will be implemented in succeeding days or succeeding weeks.
So it could be possible, Director Abad, because we've already gotten used to the price increases kicking in at 6 a.m. on Tuesday. Yan yung designated day every week. So it's possible that by next week, there could be hikes across multiple days of the week and not just on Tuesday morning.
Possible ho yan. So our point is, of course, we have to give that discretion to the oil companies. In the end, they will have to compute and decide on what will be the scheme, depending most likely to the working capital that they have and the replenishment period that they have to observe.
Director, you've been in in the industry for quite some time. Tell us, have you seen any crisis this bad? Wherein go ahead.
Well, the last time I remember the price goes this high is way back June 2022. It went as high as 85 pesos per liter, to as high as 100 in some islands of the Philippines, like Boracay. So now we're at a point that we are now has gone up to as much as 76, estimate 76 pesos per liter. So we're not that yet at that time at 85 or 90, but we have to monitor, right, for the next week and the next week.
Can you foresee, Director Abad, the impact on our energy costs as well? I know we've been talking about pump prices and, of course, kerosene, but prices have been going up this year already, like 8 pesos so far for gasoline, diesel, kerosene, like 10 pesos per liter already so far for 2026. What are the impacts on energy, energy production or generation?
Well, on power generation, probably it's just around 3% of the power mix that is still diesel-based. So much of our fuel for power would be coal and natural gas. So, and renewable energy, of course. So
But
we're not really exposed to the diesel, but well, a chunk of the problem would be for Napocor, right? Because Napocor has a fixed budget, and if at all, if it's just a small portion in terms of megawatts, but they are servicing the off-grid area. So that those are islands. And of course, we need to, well, Napocor will be directly affected by any increase of their diesel cost.
But we also see a potential tightness in LNG supply because some countries have closed their plants because of threats to the safety of continuing their operations.
Well, what the record shows now is that our 2 regasification terminals in Batangas have sufficient supply for the month of March. But you're correct, just like in oil, the issue really will be on April onward. So the good thing, of course, with LNG is much of our sources comes from Australia, Malaysia, for example, and US. But definitely, on a global scale, Qatar is producing around 20% of the global supply. So probably the onset would be on price. But later on, of course, so buyers of Qatar LNG will start to compete even with Australia, with U.S.
Right.
supply.
So the price will
that's
go
where
up.
it will become not only a price problem, but a supply problem
Right.
likewise.
So this means that even energy costs will go up, power costs.
We hope that the issue in Middle East is temporary in a sense that no country there don't want to export.
Yeah.
It's just that the shipping companies are just exercising caution in flying over that area. So as soon as the faster that the conflict will be resolved, the faster that we will be able to resume the normal supply of LNG from Qatar.
We hope your optimism will be proven right. Thank you so much for your time, Director Rino Abad of the Energy Department's Oil Industry Management Bureau.